3, 2, 1, and we've started. Why bother with the 3, 2, 1? Let's just get started. So we've started recording, and for everybody who's watching this on playback, I would just like to say thank you very much for joining me again for one of my Monday night business conversations. Tonight's business conversation is going to be about mental health awareness, because it's Mental Health Awareness Week. And I am delighted to have two people with me that maybe know an awful lot more about mental health awareness, or at least personal well-being than I do. And I'm looking forward to seeing where this conversation will take us. And what I would like to do is let them introduce themselves. Let them take 2 minutes to tell us who they are and what they do. And first up into the hot seat, dun, 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 I think we'll pick Jonathan. Tell us who you are and what. Let me be fair, Jonathan. Dr. Jonathon Bloomfield. I think let's give him his full title. Dr. Jonathon Bloomfield. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Marty. So thanks for that intro. It's I actually prefer the people call me Johnny or JB. I sometimes get called. So this is a nice evening chat. We'll keep it nice and informal. But thanks for the full title. I did work hard for that. I do like using it. Yeah. So my career is kind of origins would be in sports science and working within high performance teams, supporting athletes reach their full potential. I've worked, started in Ulster Rugby, then went through to the Sports Institute, specialised as a physiologist. So really how the body works and adapts to whatever the things we do, like stress or exercise, or something I specialise a lot in is sleep and recovery, and how we manage fatigue. And I have worked through into sort of the highest level in rugby, and then into sports science consultancy. So I've done a lot of work with a lot of Premier League teams and a lot of international rugby union sides, and then I give it all up to have a bit of a pivot and have a bit more of a stable life here in Belfast. And my focus switched to working with organisations and supporting their staff with strategies and interventions to improve their well-being, their health, and lead to higher engagement and productivity in business. So I run a consultancy company which focuses on improving performance in business, and I absolutely love it.
Very good. That's quite an interesting field that you work in. Were you always involved in health? Were you a sportsman before you went into academia? How did you get into that?
Well, as a young man, my passion when I was a teenager was hockey, or field hockey, as it's known in other parts of the world, and I was very inspired by Great Britain winning the 1988 Olympic Games, and we had 2 gold medalists from Northern Ireland. We have only 4 gold medalists in Northern Ireland, in the history of Northern Ireland, and I used to play with one of them in my teenage years. So I represented Ireland as a hockey player. So I was very, very proud to represent the country, and that kind of gave me the passion to explore a career in sport. So as a young single guy, I dreamed of working in the Premier League, and then of course whenever I grew up a little bit and family came along, just life changes, priorities change. So I needed to pivot that career.
Very good. That's fascinating. That's Jonathan. In all the years I've known you, I didn't realise that you were an international sportsman.
Yes, a long time ago now, but it's whenever the deeper you get involved in professional sport, your own sporting ambitions just fall away to the wayside. So my sport is all about looking after my health, keeping, having good fun, enjoyment, a bit of a release from work. But I think you asked me earlier, there's a really natural transition between supporting people fulfill their potential, reach their dreams, and maximize their own personal and team performance, and how that can carry across into the workplace. So with an elite athlete, their health and their wellness is critical. It's crucial to making sure that they're there on the start line, or they're there on the sports field week in, week out. And it's the exact same in business. It's you have to perform 52 odd weeks a year, and you have to show up, and you have to maximize your potential to give your best.
And we'll definitely come back to that. I'll be delving into a little bit more with that with you. JP, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us.
I was just listening to Johnny there intently, because as Johnny and Martin, you'll know, I've never met Johnny, and I've got to meet him for literally less than 5 minutes there before we went on. So it's really fascinating to learn more, and I hopefully get to learn more about you as this goes on. But my name is JP. I come from a hospitality management background. So straight out of school, I worked in the cinema sector with leisure background, and moved into hospitality. And then really early on realized that I was good with people. I was good at leading people, hopefully. I was definitely good at managing them. But through a series of difficult circumstances on the site that we worked in, it was under administration when we took it over. We managed it out of administration, and then moved it into a unique situation where the place was being sold, and all the way we held the management contract off that through our employer. And then an opportunity came up where myself and my colleague Sean, who you can see in the background here, we decided to start our own company on the side of our full-time work. So we were both managers in the same site. And we realized after a few years of working on the same management team that we had very similar values, and our behaviors were very much the same. And what we didn't realize was that in the setting that we were in, we were creating a really strong culture. And it actually culminated whenever we, as I say, it was most of the workforce that we worked with, our team, were between the age group of 18 to 24. So it was in that sort of hospitality setting, and the unsociable hours suited that age group. A lot of them were in education, some of them it was their full-time job. But it came, as I say, it culminated whenever we had with zero employee turnover for a 2-year period. And what we basically found was it was the way we were treating people, it was the values we were instilling in them, and it was the personal growth. And that's what we're passionate about, and that's what Core Impact is all about. So Core Impact is a consultancy organization, but we very much focus on developing people, business, and communities. And we do that through a cultural approach. So we will say organizational culture, but it doesn't just stop there. It starts with the person. It starts with how that person adds value to the organization they're working in, but likewise how it comes back. And we're very early on into our journey. We only stepped away from our full-time jobs back in September 2019 there. So having the current situation kick us down while we were in a nice upward trajectory has added a new challenge, one that we're hopefully going to meet, and we'll hopefully come out the back end of this stronger than we went in. But delighted to be here, and I look forward to discussing more, especially because it is Mental Health Awareness Week, something we're very passionate about. I would love to talk a little more around that.
One of the things I do know about you, JP, and it surprised me when we had the conversation before, is that you were a boxer in your day.
I was, you keep using that term as if I was like a success. What actually through you know what, we're all on our own journey, as you know, everyone's on their own journey. And for me, I boxed. My dad actually boxed for Ireland in the Olympics in 1992. And my mum and dad are originally from Cork, you see. My dad still lives in Cork, and he has his own boxing club. So boxing was always going to be something that I was going to be interested in. I was never pushed into it. But yeah, I started boxing when I was about 11, and sort of had an on and off relationship with it through school. And I started working very early, and it was essentially work that got in the way. As Johnny, you'll say, life takes over. And you know, I was only ever in the sort of novice leagues. I never went and fought for the country or anything like that. But I was quite successful in what I did do. But Dad would have loved me to have done more with it, because I did have potential. But you never know. You know, they've lifted the amateur age limit, so there's always time. That's why I said.
Still hope for that fame and fortune from boxing. So the thing we're talking about tonight on the Monday Night Business Conversation is mental health awareness, because it's Mental Health Awareness Week. And I suppose what I would like, both of you guys come from an environment where you know the impact of good or bad mental health. What does mental health awareness, what does that term mean to you, Johnny? What does mental health awareness mean? What should I be thinking of when I hear people talking about mental health awareness?
That's a great question, Marty. I think the most important word in that, in those three, is probably awareness. Mental health has certainly how people look or think or act upon mental health has changed quite considerably in the last 5 years in particular. There was a time where it was, you know, something that really wasn't ever spoken about or could be spoken about, and now it's something that people are genuinely quite aware about, quite concerned about. It's having an enormous impact in organizations and on the economy. Before COVID-19 kicked in, the challenges that we are facing may increase the problem. It may also improve the problem in some circumstances. We are learning on the job to be very, very resilient, very resourceful. We're dealing with significant change and restriction, and that can actually, to some people, be a good thing to have that resolve to come through this. But there will be other people that are really suffering. So this week, I suppose, is to raise awareness of those people who are genuinely suffering, and where it's maybe not on our not something we're thinking about day and daily about other people's mental health. This is a great week to consider reaching out, offering help, offering an ear, or just as simply checking in with people. It's great we're three blokes on this call, because we're probably the worst ones at opening up and talking and listening about mental health. Particularly like those male-dominated organizations or industries, you know, looking at male, men's sport or construction, being two very male-dominated industries where mental health problems exist, but are very difficult to surface and discuss. But there's been some fantastic campaigns in both those industries in recent years to open the opportunity for people to talk about them and to shake off the stigma. So to summarize, it's all about, this week for me is all about awareness.
I think you're absolutely right. There are particular industries where sometimes the masculinity of the industry maybe buries the problems that are there. And the construction industry, my dad was a builder before he retired, and he worked in the construction industry. And I can remember at 16 going on to and doing site work, basically putting in the slabs around houses and stuff, and having to work with the guys in that site and smoking my fags, and you know, just the, I don't want to use the word roughness, but it was a rough and tumble environment. And if you came in and you said, look, I'm feeling a little bit anxious or stressed, they'd look at you like you had two heads. It just wasn't an environment to have those sort of conversations. So to be aware that it doesn't matter what environment you're in, issues like stress leading to anxiety, which can potentially lead to depression, can happen to anybody in any environment. And on that then, JP, in relation to the challenges we're facing, particularly now with the COVID-19 thing. What's your thoughts on the whole remote working thing and how that challenges? What should we be aware of with the mental health awareness week, and what can we do about it?
So what I find is, that's a great question, by the way. I find that with remote working, it's something. I was at an event, myself and Sean were at an event about a month, I believe, about a month to a month and a half before this all kicked off, when the lockdown, the social distancing measures, and then therefore the lockdown measures came into play. And it was HR Locker who were holding it. And HR Locker are an online platform for human resource management. It's a human resource management system. And we've got to know the company really well, and they're that's what they're all about. They're all about remote working. And at this event, they were talking about how, what if something happened, and what if everything went up and the world turned upside down, and we needed to work remotely? What have you got in place, and what contingency plans you have in place that can allow your workforce, where it's possible and whatever? Because you mentioned, Johnny, about industries. Certain industries just can't do it. The one that the company that we would, as what I didn't mention was that we still oversee the site that we were managing. We took them on. We're the management. We have the management contract for that, and our guys are at home. Guys and girls are at home, and so we don't have a situation. We're in a unique setting there where they are out of work. They are furloughed. We're probably going to be one of the last ones, because it's in the hospitality industry where social contact is more difficult to, especially when you put, we have a restaurant license, so there's food and drink there as well, and people's inhibitions loosen. The point I'm making is, it was so funny how we'd been to that event, and then all of a sudden this kicked off, and we went, whoa, Mystic Meg made a comeback. We were like, how could you make that up? And, you know, there's two ways of looking at it, right? There's the people who are working at home. So I'm in our sort of spare room. We've made into a bit of an office. And my fiance Laura, she's in IT. So there's two screens behind me here. There's way much more going on than I know what's going on, right? And Laura works from home, and she would regularly, pre-COVID-19, she would work from home maybe once or twice a week, some weeks. And for her, it's quite easy. It's an easy transition. And in those settings where you work with a company that you're able to work from home, what we need to be careful, I believe, because obviously I'll always take the cultural element to it, and that very much does look at mindset, mental health awareness. You need to make sure that you're keeping a line of communication with the people here at home. So it's important that you understand that, yes, somebody might be ticking all the boxes, they may be logging in at the right time and finishing at the right time, but are you really looking after their mental health? And there's two sides of that coin, because people hear mental health awareness and they automatically assume suicide and negativity, when in fact, the extremes, when in fact, more times than enough, it should always be about promoting positive mental health awareness and understanding the things that can actually, the roadmap to bring in your workforce and the people you work with to a really happy place. So what I would say is, if you can work remotely, it's not just about just checking in with somebody in the morning and in the afternoon, or later if they're working in the evening. It's about actually having a bit of crack. So with us, for instance, it's easier whenever people are able to work at home. Now, when you look at the other side of it, when there's people who can't work remotely, work in this current circumstance, and they're often furloughed, I believe there's still a responsibility to your people from a mental health awareness perspective. So they are remote from the workplace, but they're not working. But you still have to make sure that they're taking over and doing well. Lots of things like quizzes, lots of things like WhatsApp groups. Making sure that you're keeping the two-way communication open is the best way to keep that awareness up remotely.
Okay, excellent stuff there. Johnny, one of the things that and maybe you can tell me a little bit more about this, but there is definitely a physical thing that happens if your mental health isn't right, and if your physical health isn't right, it can affect your mental health. And I know this. I suppose one of the most there's a couple of things actually. I've got one of these Fitbits, and one of the things I notice is, I suppose one of the things I'm infamous for is trying to ask the first question at events. It's just a wee thing I do. It's like a profile thing. It's a little bit of branding. It's a way of letting people know that you're in the room. And when you're going to ask the first question in a room that has 100 people in it, you get a wee bit nervous. And when I'm feeling nervous, I can look at my watch and I can see that my heart rate will raise from about 65 beats per minute up to about 130. That's not because I'm running about or jumping up and down or doing anything, exerting myself in any way. It's whatever's going on in my mind is having an effect on my heart rate. And it's not that I can stop that. It's not like, I probably could. I could probably think about what I'm doing and bring my heart rate down. But it's not, I would actually have to physically do something. I'd have to concentrate on to do that. And the other thing I have is, giving away all my health secrets here on the interwebs, but I have a blood pressure monitor at home. The cuff ones that you can put on that takes your blood pressure. And we all have tough days at work. You have days where you have a lot of stuff that you have to get done. There's month-end pressures, there's year-end pressures, there's dealing with HMRC on behalf of your clients, and they're maybe not doing what it is that they should be doing. There's having to resolve mistakes. It's the stuff we all have to come across. It's dealing with other people sometimes is difficult. And if I take my blood pressure on a tough day, on a day when I'm having a tough day, my blood pressure might be above 140. It might go up to 150. And on exceptional circumstances, when I'm dealing with someone who's maybe being rude, for want of a better words, I can see that my blood pressure go up to maybe 160. It would spike at maybe 160 before coming back down again. So I've noticed from a non-professional point of view that there is a very definite impact between the mind and the body, but at the same time, a healthy body affects the mind. What's your thoughts on that, Jonathan, or from a professional perspective? Is there some insights you can give us that might be relevant to Mental Health Awareness Week?
Okay, certainly, Marty. We'll have to do another full recording to be truthful. Right. So the body and the mind they're not two separate things. They're absolutely connected. So like what you described there, how you think will ultimately show up, and how you feel, your body will respond to those thoughts. Now, sometimes you will have an acute response, such as you described. Your heart rate might go up as you prepare to step out of your comfort zone. That's absolutely fine, because that's your adrenal response, and that will ultimately, that's designed to increase our heart rate. It's technically known as our fight and flight response. So that is normal and fine, and nothing to worry about. Acute stress response is, it's an unbelievably perfectly designed mechanism to allow us to perform, actually, to rise to the occasion and to perform. But when it becomes a problem is when that acute response becomes chronic, and that blood pressure cuff of yours always says 140 or 150, and you every time you measure it, that it's not going down, and that's when we start to have a problem. And whenever that chronic stress response is always there, and we're behaving in ways that do not enhance or help reduce it either, such as our lifestyle or some of our choices around what we eat or drink, or how we take care of ourselves and our sleep and our exercise. That can make the problems a lot worse. But if anyone is listening to this and your blood pressure is high and your heart rate's going up and it's not coming down, go and see your GP and get yourself physically screened and checked out. That's certainly something I would highly advise you to do. Chronic conditions are bad news. We're kind of sitting in a chronic condition here. Chronic stress is all about it, all around us with this COVID crisis. When are we getting out? Is my business going to survive? Is, how's my family? Are they looking after themselves? I can't see them all. I don't know. So there's a lot of things to cope with in the mind. And, we're talking about awareness this week. So if you can even catch yourself before things start to get really bad, that's a great sort of way to bring yourself back and recognize your perspective. I would say a great way to manage your mental health is concentrating on perspective And yes, like for example, this crisis, these conditions we're putting up with, it's horrible, but it won't be forever, and we can cope with it. You know, there are people worse off than me. You know, if you can kind of catch your perspective on this, it's a great way to learn how to cope and to keep that blood pressure normal and that heart rate calm despite everything flying about. Another really good point, my final point, would be to control the controllables and let everything else do what it needs to do.
Brilliant.
You can't do
Brilliant point. Brilliant point.
Yeah, nice.
JP, in regard to the organizational things that can be done to deal, so I suppose when I think of it, I think of it from a macro and a micro perspective. When you talk about the economy and finance, there's a macro, which is the organization or the wider world. There's a micro, what you can do yourself. Johnny's made some really good points there on what I call the micro. From the organizational level, what should, in your view, organizations be doing to help people sort out their physical and mental responses, or the combined response for better mental health awareness? Do you have any thoughts around that or ideas?
Yeah, I've some, and I reckon at this point Johnny would probably be able to give more advice than I would in terms of the body elements anyway, but I can certainly give you a bit of the experiences that I've had, or things that we have done that have worked. With the team, I think we at one stage would have between about 30 to 40 people in the same team. And what we have found is communication within every organization is always one of the issues. So not necessarily an issue, even organizations who are good at communication can always improve. You can always find a way to better communicate things, whether it's a policy, whether it's a new value that you're trying to incorporate, any kind of change really. So from my perspective, what I would say is education is really important. Education about the mind, bringing people like Johnny in, or maybe like myself and Sean in, who understand the behaviors that will come from whenever you make a new change. So let's take the COVID-19 crisis, like Johnny mentioned there, for example, right? So a lot of organizations are maybe thinking, right, we have, especially where we live, we've been given a roadmap, but there's no real markers, there's no time. There's steps, but as far as I'm concerned, you can be in step 1 with family and friends. And I know today that they've announced you can go and meet people not in your household outdoors, and that's great. But workplaces aren't really being given much more, aside from the golf resorts or golf clubs and fishing. So from our perspective, an organization, we're running an organization and we don't know when we're going to be opening. And because we're in hospitality, we're sort of saying, right, what do we do, and how do we incorporate this into looking after our team well? So we're looking at it from 2 perspectives. Number 1, like I mentioned there, making sure you're keeping the line of communication open with your team, making sure you're keeping a bit of crack and a bit of banter going, but also feeding through the right information. When I say communication, I don't mean overload your people with every little piece of data, because what happens is it becomes lost. And sometimes when you need a really important point to come through, or a piece of information to come through, you might lose them if all you're doing is throwing information at them. So it's about taking a step back and understanding, right, what do my team need to know? Well, things like, here's what we're going to do in the steps forward. Even though we don't have a date in place, we're already putting things in place and we're letting them know what they are. We're also letting them know about possibilities of things. This may happen, not guaranteeing it, but it may or may not happen. But then you need to start thinking, right, well, what happens whenever you get them back into work? Because as Johnny mentioned at the start there, which is a fantastic point, this could be the making or breaking when it comes to a mental health perspective for the people you work with. So you need to start thinking ahead and saying, right, well, what do I need to support my team with? Well, I would say that regular meetings, face-to-face, with social distancing obviously in place if possible, make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're keeping everyone in the loop. Make sure you're asking them, are they okay? Like, how are you feeling? That's a very, very simple thing to do, and giving somebody a platform, one that they feel that they aren't being judged, one that they feel that they're being supported, and making sure that you're pointing in the right direction, because there's information out there. There's charities, more importantly. One of our charities that we work closely with is PIPS, Mental Health Awareness, Suicide Prevention, and they can put you in touch with befrienders, and they can put you in touch with counsellors, and they can, whether it's promoting positive mental health, because they always try to push that point, or if you're really dealing with chronic issues like Johnny mentioned.
Very good. I love that, and you did mention it again there, that idea that mental health awareness doesn't have to be aware of just the bad things. It's being aware of the good stuff as well. It's so important to be aware that you only become aware of your mental health when it becomes bad. That means that most of the time you must be fine. Hopefully, most people most of the time are fine, and it's trying to make sure that that people get into a stage where we're trying to avoid a stage where your mental health does start to deteriorate for whatever reason. Okay, guys, I see that we are down to the last 7 minutes of the availability of this Skype call. So what I would like to do is look at what's happening in your immediate future in regard to mental health awareness. Jonathan, is there anything coming up in your agenda or your schedule that relates to mental health awareness?
So yeah, I've got two things. The first one is a physical program that I created for a large client last year, and I'm rolling out in partnership with business in the community this year. So it's going to start 2 weeks from today. So it's a great platform. It uses physical activity. It's designed for everybody in the organization, from the super fit people through to the completely inactive and never done anything. And it is specifically designed to service everybody and engage them. It's fun. It can be competitive, and it's a really good service. So if you want to find out more, contact me or get your HR team to contact me to learn about that. And then a second point on mental health is JP made a great point there about the positive aspect of mental health. So I'm running a Zoom call on Wednesday morning looking at 24 ways to strengthen how you cope with this whole crisis. And that's using positive psychology and scientific research to show that instead of people focusing on what is wrong and trying to change the bad stuff, it's actually to concentrate on what's great and what makes you special, and dialing that up and flourishing from releasing your strengths. So that's my 2 bits. I've got a physical thing which brings about mental and social benefit, and then I'm focusing this week on mental health and positivity.
Absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to come back how people can reach you now in the last 5 minutes. JP, anything coming up in the near future in regards to Mental Health Week itself or generally?
Yeah, Johnny, I'll be checking that out on Wednesday morning if I can, because it's always good to be developing yourself personally. So that's really interesting. But yes, myself and Sean have already started doing something. It doesn't only just talk about mental health, but we did do an episode on a new series we've started called Culture Talks. And if you look up Core Impact Limited's page on Facebook, or you look at myself, John Paul Taggart, or Sean Grant up on LinkedIn, you'll find those things on there. But there's an episode we done with a really interesting guy, Shane Murphy, last week, and Shane works with mental health awareness charities, and we've known Shane quite a while. He also works for Young Enterprise Northern Ireland, so he's working in schools regularly. He's speaking to thousands upon thousands of people per year, and he's making a massive improvement. So the topic that we actually talked about last week was well-being and culture, and how well-being impacts your culture. So that's the biggest one I would say, and I can maybe put a link in the description or send the link to you, Marty, as well. But the other thing I would say is myself and Sean, with everything that's been going on, and Johnny, you mentioned that earlier, we've become quite resilient and good at pivoting, I think, and as people, and we have actually started putting together an e-learning platform, and there will definitely be information in that, and small how-tos, and it's focusing not only just on individuals but managers and leaders within the organization, and how you can take steps to improve your own mental health, but also support, and that is a big word, getting away from that idea of an open door policy and having an open door way of life, just making sure it's relationship led. So more information in the future.
We're down to less than the last 2 minutes here, so this is going to be a one-sentence answer. And I apologize, guys. I'm throwing this at you, so you're going to have to think on your toes. If there was a #1 place where people can find you guys, where do they go to find you? Jonathan, how do people find you, your top #1 place for people to go?
LinkedIn, Dr. Johnny Bloomfield.
Absolutely brilliant. And JP?
The exact same answer. If you go to LinkedIn, that's where we're most active. John Paul Taggart.
John Paul Taggart on LinkedIn. And sorry, Jonathan again?
Dr. Johnny Bloomfield.
Dr. Johnny Bloomfield. Guys, I really, really enjoyed it. The time always flies in these things, but literally I cannot believe that the time is nearly up already. Some incredibly valuable information there, very pertinent for Mental Health Awareness Week. The passion shines through. I think when people have a passion for their subject, sometimes it just shines through and really makes an impact. And I think that genuinely has happened tonight. I really appreciate the two of you coming on again, or coming on, and I would really hope to have both of you on again. And maybe if someday, for Wednesday, Johnny, I hope to be joining you for that. That sounds like it's going to be excellent. But after this recording is over, we're still recording at the moment, but I'm going to stop the recording in a wee second. After this recording is over, I will buzz you through and ensure we can finish off the conversation afterward and make plans for change in the world going forward. Any, in the last literally 1 minute, any last thoughts that you would like to add, Johnny?
Keep looking after yourselves, guys.
Keep looking after yourselves. JP?
Yep, Johnny made a really good point earlier about how we are in the last load of years coming around to understanding mental health and that it's not a taboo subject. Keep it going. This week will be a fantastic week. And I'm not saying this with prior knowledge, but I guarantee you there'll be really good information and support out there. So keep your eyes peeled.
Guys, that's us for tonight. Thank you very much. If anybody's watched this tonight and thought, you know what, this has been fun, I've enjoyed the conversation, and I would like to go on to a Monday night business conversation, because it's essentially business people coming together having a chat. And ladies, yous are just as welcome as the fellas. We haven't had any ladies yet, but maybe that's because of me, my fault. But anybody at all that has a subject on business that would like to come on and share with me and have the conversation, please do. I don't bite, and I would love to have you on. I'm going to finish up for tonight. This will be shared tonight after, you'll know you'll not see it until you actually see it, but it'll be shared tonight after the conversation, guys. So we'll be up for about 9 o'clock or so. And then I do what's called a watch party on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. If you're about, you're more welcome to come and join us. And we'll go from there. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. You and me, JP, will catch up again soon. Hang about. I will be talking after this.
That's good, guys. See you soon.
Bye.